Well, hello. Welcome to HBCU Grad Live. I'm Todd Finley, the founder and CEO of HBCU Grad. I am with Tiffany Williams, who is the founder of TJ Marie Consulting and the CEO of Gively. Hello, Tiffany. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great. I'm doing very well. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. We're happy to have you. Let's start. I want to go back. First, tell me who you are right now. Exactly,
Okay.
the CEO and all the high level. Then we're going to go back and talk about who you were as a kid.
Okay, yeah. So who am I today? Oh, that's a good question. I am the CEO and founder of Gively, which is a donor engagement and donation platform. We launched very recently, and we can talk all about Gively, but essentially it is an endeavor that was very near and dear to my heart, a labor of love for the last 2 years. And so I really happy about just kind of where we are. It's crazy because of the pandemic and everything, but that is, one hat that I wear. And then the other one is I'm a fundraising consultant full time. I help nonprofit organizations raise money and strengthen their operations in a number of different ways. So my firm helps nonprofit organizations create strategic plans. We facilitate board trainings. We do prospect research. We design major giving campaigns and capital campaigns. So we do really kind of all things nonprofit fundraising on the TJ Marie Consulting side. So
now, do you usually work with people that have no clue of what's going on, or some people that have a little bit of understanding of where they want to go? They just don't know how to get there.
Yeah, so we tend to work with organizations who know that they want a fundraising consultant in terms of the consulting side of things, and have donors, so people who exist in their database who actively support the organization, and who have a budget for a consultant.
Okay.
That's important. That's important. So that's typically, the kind of a little bit of the criteria.
Right. That makes sense. Now let's go back. Where are you from, Tiffany?
I'm originally from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I was born in North Mississippi, a city called Clarksdale. My parents, both sides of my family, they met in Clarksdale. They were there. And then we moved to South Mississippi when I was about 3 or 4, I think. And then so I was raised in Hattiesburg, and then, lived all over the place as a consultant, and then finally settled in Chicago about almost 5 years ago.
Okay. Now, what's the major industry in Mississippi?
Cotton and catfish. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of big industry, there are some, there are some companies, there's some, car manufacturer plants and that type of thing. But generally, you think of, the cotton industry, you think of fishing industry.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you remember the first donation you ever made, even as a little girl?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's the first donation I ever made. I don't know if I can remember that far back, but I do remember always being philanthropic. So we went to church. We grew up in the church. My grandfather was a Baptist pastor, so we were always in church. Okay. Right. But I remember, getting a quarter or 50 cents to put in the offering at church. So that was, as far back as I can remember, that was a normal thing. It was, 2 offerings. One was tithes and offering, and then one was benevolent offering. And benevolent offering was the money that you gave that went toward people who were maybe less fortunate or who needed it at the time. So that philanthropy mindset has always been a part of my life from very young age.
Right. How did that make you feel? Because I remember my first time giving, it made me feel so good. and I wanted to feel that again.
Yeah.
Did it make you feel the same way? And it said, hey,
Yeah.
this is something that I want to pursue.
I mean, I definitely think that giving is, contagious. I think, when you give, your body releases dopamines, you feel good, you see yourself in a different way. You see yourself as being someone who is helping and contributing to society. And so certainly, I mean, I think, even as a young person and then kind of carrying that up to what I do now, is so important for me to make sure that people see themselves doing good in the world and being philanthropic and being giving and all that kind of good stuff. And so that certainly has traveled with me, and coincidentally has become my life's work.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. Now, I did a little research and I see that you went to FAMU.
Yes. We did go to FAMU.
I did it. I have a feeling that we were there at the same time.
Yeah, I think we probably had mutual friends.
Yeah.
So I'm a Delta BA, and I know you're Kappa. So we got to have some friends in common.
Right.
But I was in SBI.
Okay, I was too.
Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe we did cross.
Yeah. I have a feeling you probably were a little bit more studious than I was.
I don't know. You seem pretty focused as well, so I'm sure we both were,
Right. So now, how did you get to FAMU? Who exposed you to it? What made you want to go to FAMU, and what made you ultimately make the decision to go to FAMU?
Yeah. So I'm one of those kids, and so I would just say one of those people, because I'm still this way.
Yeah.
I plan far in advance, right? So I've always got a 5-year plan and, all this kind of good stuff. But I remember being 13 and deciding that I was going to go to FAM. Really? Up until that point, I wanted to go to Spelman. And I visited Spelman's campus at 12 or 13, and I didn't like it. I did not like it. And I feel just kind of from that moment on, I had my god brother went to FAM.
Okay.
Years before. And, he was there then, but, he's obviously significantly older than me. But that must have been the first time I heard of FAM. And so then, I was a 14-year-old, Googling what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do the 5-year MBA program. And I wanted to be a Delta. And, I was already planning. So that's, and I just never wavered. I applied to a number of different schools, but it was just, in case, because I already knew where I was going.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, describe your HBCU experience. Describe it from what you thought it was going to be to what it was before becoming a member of a sorority. Tell me about the sorority, and then tell me about what the real ROI was.
Okay.
Sorry for all the questions, but
okay, I'm gonna make sure I remember them all.
Right.
All right. So what did I think FAM was going to be? I think I had a picture of a different world, so many young people who grew up watching the Cosby Show in a different world. That it was going to be fun, and you get to just kind of live with your friends and, of course learn, but, you just the entire environment. And I honestly feel that's pretty much what it was. I was not disappointed at all. My very first year, I was very homesick, and I was very, I had become a small fish in a big pond.
Right.
Whereas, in my hometown, I was kind of a big fish in a small pond. So it's kind of everybody is everything. Everybody's smart. Everybody was student body president. Everybody, So, you didn't stand out necessarily from everybody else who was super smart and talented. So, so the first year was a little tough. I didn't have my car. It's, I don't know if the rule still applies, but I had a car in high school, and then I went to Tallahassee, and old freshmen could have cars. And so I remember saying after Christmas break, I have to take my car back. I cannot. I got stuck out at the mall one time with the rain, and at the bus stop, waiting on the Taos train or whatever. And I was like, I'm not doing this. And so I brought my car back the second semester, and I think things got a lot better. Yeah, so I thought it was gonna be like different world. It kind of was. I was always studious. Like, there wasn't a point where I felt like I was like falling behind or anything like that. But it was work. Like, I'm not one of those. My little brother is just naturally smart. You can give him any task. He doesn't have to study for it. Like, he can just get it done. I had to study it, but I had done that in high school, so I was prepared. All right, and then prior to sorority life, I think I met so many friends freshman year, girls in the dorm, guys in SBI. I mean, like, it was just like life as a college kid before sorority life, right?
Yeah.
And then sorority life came. And, I had long admired the Deltas. Like I said, I was a kid already like searching, BADST in high school, right? So I already knew what I wanted to do. And the first time I applied, I didn't make it. I applied as a sophomore. And I didn't make it. And then I applied again the next year. And by this time, I felt like, all right, now I got some chops. My grades are always good, but I was like very involved. I was presidential ambassador. I was like, doing a ton in SB. I had to do the stuff you got to do to kind of, to stand out a little bit. So, but it definitely changed my life. I mean, I met, ladies who would, unbeknownst to me at the time, become like lifelong friends, like forever and ever. And so I always say, like, going to FAMU was one of the greatest decisions of my life. College Delta, when I did, was one of the best decisions of my life. And it continues to be. I am very blessed in having gone through both experiences. So. Right.
Nice. Now, what year did you cross?
05.
Okay. So
you telling people how old I am, not that. What are we doing?
Okay. I'm trying to see if you were around because I was 2004.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we were right in there.
Yeah, we were right there. Yeah. I think you were just a little too studious for me. I kind of majored in video games.
Oh, right. Well, you made it through. You made it.
Right.
Listen, I'm going to tell you a funny story, and I'm going to tell it in a way that's not going to get it. We're grown now, but in spring 05, everybody had a line just about, right? Like, everybody had a line. So we're all like, being initiated at the same time. And I was very close. I have a lot of Alpha Z friends. One in particular I was very close with in college. And I remember, like, he and his, line brothers in and they were going through the process. But I would come home because I had a house by myself. I had like a place out by myself. And it was like off and kind of like not really in the cut, but like it wasn't super near campus. Right. And so, but I remember coming home one day, and this probably happened more than once, but I guess I had like given him a key on some, like, you can come hide here type of thing. And I remember coming home one night, tired, probably crawling to the door and stepping over like Alpha Z, campus who were like sleep on the floor, and like go to my room and close the door, go to bed, but it was just such a normal thing. And I look back now where you don't get to like live with your friends and, see them every day. But, just all good, happy memories. And by the time I woke up, they probably were all gone. We all retired, who knows? But it's, the memories like that you keep with you and that really kind of made the college experience for me. So.
That's awesome. I'm pretty sure they were tired from just studying. You have
studying together at study groups. Yes.
Yeah, yes. I'm pretty sure. Now, do you encourage people to go to FAM now? I've been noticing a lot of people have children. A lot of stars are having children, and their children are going to different schools. Do you encourage people to go to FAM, or do you encourage people to just go to an HBCU that fits them?
So I don't have kids. But I always said, if I did have them, and if I do have them, my money will go to an HBCU. Now, you can choose which one of those HBCUs is the one, but I'm going to send my money and my support to a historically Black college.
Right.
And there are a number of reasons as to why. But my nephew, I told him the same thing. You know, you can go where you want to go, but I'm just telling you right now, TT supporting the HBCU. So he ended up going to Morehouse and having a great experience there. He graduated 2018, I guess. Yeah. So he was one of the Robert Smith Scholars, the one that got all his student loans paid off. Yes.
Wow. That's awesome.
So see what happens when you listen to your aunt.
You gotta listen.
Good things happen. Good things happen. So so I don't necessarily say like you have to go to FAM. Obviously, that would be my preference. If anybody asks, wants my little opinion, I won't say go to FAM. But I think more, I think it is important that we support and maintain relevancy for our HBCUs. And so that's where I think that would be my suggestion to anybody thinking about where they want to school.
Right. Me too. I'm all about HBCUs, but I'm really about FAM because that's what I know.
That's right. I can't give you any other experience. That's the one I can give you. So that's number one.
Right.
Mom went to Jackson State, so we have a really little battle in the family. But yeah. So
my sister went to Hampton, so that was my experience. So I saw Hampton. I liked Hampton.
Why didn't you go to Hampton? What made you go to FAMU over Hampton?
I couldn't have concentrated at Hampton. I wasn't mature. So I couldn't have concentrated there. So I go to a place that had more people like me, more regular people.
More regular people. A little balance in your life.
Right. So, but Hampton is beautiful. There's a lot of beautiful campuses in the HBCU world. So after graduating, what was your first step? What was your first job and how did you land it?
Okay, so I was in SBI. I did the 5-year MBA program.
Okay, so what were your internships?
5 years. So internships were, I did one with like the Macy's Corporation.
Okay.
But I was like assigned to like a David's bridal, and it was a lot of fun because you need to dress up people in bridal gowns. I did one with a small law firm back at home. It was my very first one where you kind of like choose to work somewhere that was professional, but it didn't necessarily have to be like a Fortune, 500. That was the first one. And then the Macy's, and then Pfizer was my last one.
Okay. In Cincinnati?
No, Pfizer. I was in, like training and all that kind of stuff was like outside of Dallas. And then I had my territory though was in Mississippi. So I was able to like come, like my territory was back at home. So
that's nice.
Yeah,
so once you graduated, did you go with Pfizer?
No. So when I graduated, Pfizer happened to be on a hiring freeze, and they were like, we're in a hiring freeze, but can you come do another internship? And then we'll rotate you out of intern into full time once we're done with the hiring freeze. And I was like, nope. At that time, I had another offer from Eli Lilly.
Oh, okay.
And if I don't know if this is still the case, but back then Eli Lilly paid more than Pfizer did. So I ended up accepting an offer with Eli Lilly, and I was a drug rep in Macon, Georgia.
Okay.
For a few years. Right. And I hated it.
Did you?
I hated it.
What did you hate about it?
A lot happened that year. So it was like the perfect storm of events. So I got the job. My territory was Middle Georgia. Right. Keep in mind, I graduated in 2007. I probably started working like at the end of probably August or September of 2007. Okay. Barack Obama was running for president. This was starting to happen. I'm in Middle Georgia. Okay. So that's the whole thing. It was, they would see a Black person coming and just want to tell you their thoughts about this Black Muslim, man.
That wasn't
Right, exactly. So that was tough. A lot changed in terms of regulations for pharmaceutical reps back then. So we used to be able to like give out pens and pads and all this different kind of stuff to like the doctor's offices. And in the middle of my time there, that stopped. So it's kind of like one day you could bring in pens, the next day you couldn't. So all the doctors were mad. Like,
right. Yeah.
We don't need you then if you're not bringing us no stuff.
Exactly.
So that was tough. I had insulin, and there was nothing novel or new about insulin, right? Insulin's been around for years, since the 50s or since the 30s, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like I was sharing something with you that you didn't already know. So you had to be like, super creative. And then I had it's just was like my partner from the like sister company or whatever, she's like got real depressed. She ended up committing suicide. It was just horror. It was just like all the bad things that could happen. And again, I was in Middle Georgia, so it's like it's like coming from FAM where everything is friends and and then it's kind of like in the middle of Middle Georgia trying to like navigate. So, but anyway, I didn't like it. I kind of became I felt like a glorified caterer. I was just like going to get food, take the doctor's offices, So long answer to a short question, but I just didn't like it. So
that makes sense. So, so when did you decide entrepreneurship was your thing? Because as you said, you're a planner. Yeah. So at 13 years old, you're saying, "Hey, I'm an
entrepreneur."
No, were you always going to be an entrepreneur?
I don't know when that happened, but I always knew I would. Yeah, I did. So I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I was going to do something. So I was a drug rep for a couple of years, and then one of my profiles actually introduced me to CCS and said,
CCS.
CCS is a fundraising consulting firm. It's a big international fundraising consulting firm.
Okay.
And she said, you should check this out. And I'm like, okay, because I hate being a drug rep, so let me check it out. So I did, and I ended up working for that firm for 7 years almost.
Wow.
And so I started out, as an associate director, and then just kind of went up. By the time I left, I was a vice president, but I had really kind of got to the top of what was possible until you start getting into sales. And I felt like if I'm gonna be selling business, I might as well be selling business for myself instead of selling business for a big company. And so, but I had already started to feel like it was time. I had come up with the idea for Gively, everything, the whole story, but things just kind of, I knew I was going to leave, or I knew I wanted to leave. I didn't know what I wanted to leave to do. And then the idea for Gively came. I started to kind of think about it a little more, work on it a little bit. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave and work on this platform. And while I work on this platform, since I know how to do fundraising consulting, I'm going to create this little company and just do a little bit of that. It ended up doing a lot of that and also doing Gively. So it just kind of all happened in, a way that made sense that I didn't know at the time, but I always kind of knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I always knew I wanted to work for myself.
Makes sense. Tell me about Gively.
So Gively, I was giving a talk at a breakfast for fundraisers and directors of nonprofits, and somebody asked a question about how we can engage young donors better, and I gave an answer, but it just wasn't enough for me. I couldn't be like, you should use this. And so I started thinking about as a donor, as somebody who is a millennial, 36, I guess I was 34 at the time, how would I give if I had to give? And so I started kind of jotting out what features, and first of all, it says an app, because I do everything by app, right? We're Uber by app, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, everything is via app. Why can't I give to FAMU via this app, why do I have to like get something in the mail and write out a check and put it in the mail and like, we don't do that, right?
No, we don't.
Anyway, I started kind of sketching out, and it ended up like all, these features that I thought were important. And I set about building it, and essentially it's a donor engagement app, and it benefits both nonprofits and donors, users, in a number of different features. So like for a donor, like you and me, regular philanthropists that support causes we care about, we can house all of our giving in one place. We can give straight to organizations through the platform. We can set a giving goal. Say I want to give away $2,000 this year. And every time you give, it tracks to your goal. So right now, I probably put, I want to give away $1,500. I probably have given away $400. So it's like, okay, you're this much to your goal. And I wanted it to be something that really kind of helped people understand philanthropy better and do philanthropy better and easier. Saves your payment information. You don't have to go searching for your credit card. It's already there. Your profile information is already there. So that's how it works for the donor. For the nonprofit, I had raised hundreds of millions of dollars for nonprofits. So I kind of had an idea about what they needed to. I put some features in there that help nonprofits better engage with the donors, like the ability to send messages to them and for them to respond to messages from donors, to track and create like different giving campaigns that people can respond to. So that's essentially what it is. It's an app that lets you give to your favorite nonprofits and allows, organizations that you already care about. I'm already given to, my church. I'm already given to my school. I'm already given to the, shelter down the street. Allows them to kind of interact with you a little better.
Right. So in your situation, I know probably when you started, you had some of that chicken and that egg thing.
Yeah.
Do you go after the nonprofits first, or do you get the donors first? How did you kind of get over that hurdle and make sure they kind of sync up together?
So I did the exact opposite of what anybody in the startup world will tell you to do. They say, stay away from two-sided marketplaces, right? Like, don't do the two-sided marketplace. You're not going to be able to cater to them and to them. It's just, don't do it. And I was like, I can't not do it.
Right.
So I didn't decide, to answer your question. What I decided was that there's no way you're going to get donors to do what you need them to do unless you create features for them, right?
Yeah, right.
And you're not going to get nonprofits to sign up because they are the ones that essentially subscribe to the service. You're not going to get them to sign up if you don't create features for them. So we needed both. We did this study, and we interviewed dozens of nonprofit leaders and donors, and they're like, what did you want? All these different kind of questions, and everybody wants something. So it's kind of like, you can't do one without the other. So let's create the most important features for each, and then see how they interact with it from that approach. So we did the opposite of what people said to do. But we're being disruptive, right? We don't want to do what everybody else is doing. We felt like we had a good strategy for doing both, so that's what we did.
Right, makes sense. What makes a person or an organization, let's say an organization, good at raising money? You said you've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. How did you? Some good. No, I'm kidding. What makes you good at that? I'm not good at raising money. I'm a good seller. I'm a good brand builder.
Well, you're probably good at raising money. If you're selling, what you're selling?
Everything.
Okay, so is that right? You are selling an idea of impact to people who have an affinity for that mission. So essentially, I have a dog. I'm praying she remains silent through the duration of this interview. But
we love dogs. Dogs are okay with that.
But so I have an affinity for dogs. I like them. I will support the dog shelter down the street because that is my affinity. So what that dog shelter has to do is essentially connect me in a way that makes me want to support their mission, and that is to save the dogs. So the way you go about doing that is different for every organization, but essentially, I would say organizations that get fundraising right, one, they are very clear about their case. Like, what are we raising money for? And not like just, a broad thing, like we're raising money for the shelter. No, what about the shelter? You know what I mean? Like, for the dogs, what about the dogs? Like, can you drill down on the case for support? So organizations that do that are on the right path.
Okay.
Leadership. Are you investing in fundraising? Do you have leaders who are dedicated to, making sure that the message is getting out there to donors and are following what is part art, part science about fundraising, and are, following a path that makes sense in a broad scope.
Right.
Donors, obviously, like you need the donors. You can't raise money without people. So how are you acquiring them? How are you tracking them? If somebody gives $10 today, are you asking them for 15 tomorrow? Right? How are you increasing that? And then probably the last thing is a plan. Like, so now that you are clear about the case, the leadership is locked tight, the board, the administrative staff, the fundraising staff, you've got the donors, and then is there a written strategy that everybody is on the same page about? That is what I found, that organizations that do those 4 things pretty well, successful at fundraising.
Okay. Thank you for the free consultation.
You're welcome. I'll see you in your voice.
I really appreciate that. Now, what motivates someone to give? So from the donor side, I know you love dogs and you love HBCUs and you love Delta and you have affinity for things. What motivates you to give? Is it seeing what these organizations have done for what you care about? Or is it just who you are and what you think that how you can motivate these organizations to do more through your giving?
Yeah. So that's an interesting question, because this is actually, I was giving a talk on donor psychology when I conceptualized Ghibli, when I said, somebody asked me that question. And people are motivated to give in a number of different ways and for different reasons.
Right.
Some people are motivated to give because they believe that they have a duty to give back to society. They, either grew up with that notion, that would be mine. I grew up with the idea that to whom much is given, much is expected, that it is my duty to do this because I have been blessed with things. Okay.
Right.
Some people are motivated to give because they are or feel guilt about having been given or privileged in certain ways. So I was born into the Rockefeller family, and that's not fair. So I need to get, that type of thing. Some people give because they want to be recognized. And it's not a bad thing. I know some people are like, oh, they're going to be recognizing with a name on the building. It's not a bad thing. But some people do want recognition, and that recognition they feel gives them a certain standing in society or standing in their circles. And so, that's another donor, motivation.
Right.
So there are a number of reasons. I think like 5 key or core reasons, but those are some of them. Some people just, really impact is their thing. They have gone through something in life that makes them have a special affinity for a thing. I wasn't a dog person, so I got a dog. Now that I do have a dog and I am a dog person, that change in my life has created some, thing. Think about Mothers Against Drunk Driving, right? Something happened in their lives that created, some affinity for a need that they saw in the world. And so they feel like they should support and give to help address it.
Right. What do you think is McKinsey's
What is her motive? I don't know. Let me call her up on the phone, Dad, and let me see what she has to say about, this,
Yeah,
$1 billion.
that money away. What
Yeah,
do you think? What do you think about those donations the last few days? That those were the biggest donations to HBCU. What do you think?
I felt like you were going to ask me this question, so I should have thought about what I was going to say. Listen, anytime you are giving back to HBCUs, I'm happy with it. I'm good with it. I don't. I'm not one of those people who try to dictate where people give their money. I think you gotta. People give for the reason why they give.
Right.
And
Right.
Far be it for me to tell somebody else what they should be spending their money on. I think it's good. Do I think that all HBCUs deserve more funding? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I hope that we continue to elevate those messages and do the work that it takes to make sure that happens. But I also think HBCUs and no organization can rest on getting that one big donor, that's just not the way it works. And I get that inquiry all the time. We just need one big donor, and we're in Chicago. So it's usually Michael Jordan or Oprah.
Right.
Oprah. And I'm like, do you have her phone number?
Exactly.
That's not how it works. So you really have to diversify your, you got to diversity. What you're doing with corporations, what you're doing with foundations. So how are you pulling in the individuals? 70% of giving in this country is done by individuals, by people like you and me, right? So focus on one big donor, or foundations that only make up 7% of giving, then, a lot of organizations are going to miss the mark.
Right. Yeah. So HBCUs as a whole I think they have a $2.1 billion endowment.
Okay.
And then you have a school like Harvard, which is not a good, I shouldn't compare, but their endowment is 40 billion. So their endowment is 20 times what all HBCUs endowment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do we close that gap, in your opinion?
Start this country all the way over, Dad. Let's restart it, put it on rice. What they say, just restart. So there are a number of reasons why that is, and I think that people, when talking about philanthropy and these institutions, I mean, you can't even begin to have that conversation without recognizing the incredible disparities that exist today and that have historically existed, right? So we're talking about hundreds of years of a head start, right? And significant advantages and privileges and all of the above, for those types of institutions. And unless we can go back and undo that, I personally just don't see that. I hate to say it, I don't want to feel like I'm being pessimistic, but Harvard is always going to have a huge endowment because a lot of people that go there have significant money, have significant power, and so they can leverage those connections to make sure that happens. Now, what we can do is say we have, as Black folks, historically thought about philanthropy in a very kind of narrow way. It's not a bad thing, but we have historically given to our churches, right? Yeah. So you think about philanthropy and Black people giving, the most consistent funding is going to religious institutions. Again, it's not a bad thing. It's just what it is, right?
Right.
But we are just now starting to expand that conversation to include organizations that are not necessarily churches, right? So one of my clients was a big hospital. And people are like, well, how would you be raising money for the hospital? Because don't you have to pay the hospital bill? Why would you get back to the school when you had to pay to go to the school, right? So a lot of it is just educating people on how philanthropy works and changing a little bit about how we think about sustaining our institutions. And yeah, and I think those conversations are happening. I absolutely think they're happening. It's good. But yeah, it's Harvard has a huge endowment. They should just give us some of it.
Yeah. Now I feel that I have a blind spot.
Okay.
And I feel left out. That until I started to do a little research for our conversation, I've never heard of the HBCU challenge.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. So it's my fault for not being able to see everything.
No.
But tell me about the HBCU challenge.
Yeah.
Tell me about why you didn't include us.
We did. You were included. Oh, HBCU. Okay. Let's talk about that.
Talk about it.
So when we decided to launch the app, we were like, okay, how do we do this in a way that like generates some conversation and some buzz? And so anyway, literally, we were in the app stores on like Monday. On Tuesday, I was like, we should do this challenge. And then I like reached out to, wait, you're frozen on me, Todd. Can you still see me? Oh, goodness. Hello? Oh, goodness.
Tiffany, I think it was me. I don't know what happened, but we'll figure it out.
It's fine.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Okay.
You launched the app.
HBCU. So we launched the app, and it was the quickest, most ridiculous thing. I was literally just in the car one day. We had just gotten it in the app stores, which if you've ever done a donation app, is really kind of difficult to get it into the app store. They scrutinize them, really well. And so I said we should do this challenge, and of like some different schools. And I was like, even if we can get just like 3 schools to do it, like it would be really cool. And so I reached out to Dr. Friday Stroud at FAMU, and I was like, she's head of institutional advancement now. And I was like, we should do this. She was like, we absolutely should. She got her team on the call that same night. By the next morning, we were sending out marketing pieces to the schools. That next day, we were on a Zoom call with VPs of institutional advancement at different colleges. By Friday, we were like off to the races. So I say that to say, so what was it? It was a friendly fundraising competition amongst 10 HBCUs. And it was, they like had all this like social media stuff, and it was just supposed to be like a friendly kind of competition. And they were like challenging each other to see who could raise the most money. And but we ended up raising almost $30,000 for the school. And literally it happened so fast that like we had done no like prior planning. It was just like, let's do this. And then, next thing you know, we were like, off and running. So the reason why you may not have heard about it is because, one, it happened so fast, and I'm a planner, as I said, so I would have loved to have been able to be like, let me like get some stuff together. So we did get some good press and PR, different publications and the Griot, even Boss Up. I think like Boss Up was the first one to write up about it. So we got some good publicity and PR, but it was just really, really quick. Now, we'll say this. If you were to go into your nice little HBCU Instagram page, I, in your DMs, absolutely did reach out to HBCU Grad. And so when you go back and look, I want you to go look, June 26th at 6:31. Look at that. It's there. So I did tell you about it. You just were, you weren't trying to hear me. You weren't trying to hear my little situation. So, but
those receipts are real.
So it was great. We're gonna do it again next year, and we'll be much better prepared. But it was still good. I mean, it was like $30,000 in micro donations in a like very short time period with no planning is it's good. But I would have loved to do some real outreach as a fundraising consultant. So we'll do it. Yeah.
We'll definitely do it. And I take pride in the fact that we respond to every DM. So something slipped through the cracks.
You did respond. There was a response. I'm just gonna let you go back and read it though. I'll let you read it.
Okay.
It's all good. I think I ended up sending it from my personal one, and so not like the Gively one. And so I don't know. It was just sometimes miscommunication. It's fine.
Okay.
Now you know. So next time we do this, I'm going to hit you up personally.
Right. Now, I think our technical difficulties allowed you to pull up those receipts. So make sure we don't have those technical difficulties anymore.
Okay. See what happens when your internet go out?
You're right. Exactly. Now tell me this. Now that we're talking about technical difficulties, how do you handle the tech? Do you have a tech co-founder? Do you have someone on board? Because a lot of people give us to try to go the tech route, and I try to stay away from it because you turn into a different company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Technical. So how do you deal with that?
So we started out trying to be a tech company. So I think we were like prepared in that way. Like, how can we create this piece of technology? I would definitely say, and this, you've built an amazing platform with lots of followers and lots of engagement. And, you really just kind of have to stay true to like what you set out to do, because people will try to like pull you in all different types of directions. And then you'll get away from like whatever your intention originally was. So obviously after I launched this, everybody's like, but can you do this? And can you do this? And can you create this? And it's kind of like, it's hard to say no, because I want to be able to do all of it, right?
Right.
The reality is I can't create tech pieces for everybody's individual like thing. We can keep building and making ours like what we want it to be. But to answer your question, Yeah, so we work with this team out of St. Louis, and they have like a no code platform. Now we couldn't build the entire thing with no code because, it's just a little complicated. But it's called a Dalo, and we were able to do a lot of what we did in it, and then we were able to like contract to have some native pieces and all this kind of stuff. So it all came together. But I still work very closely with them. But I'm not a coder. That's not my background. But they've made it really easy for me to learn how to make small adjustments when I need to. So right before I was on with you, I was on with another, with another guy, and we were like doing a couple of automations in the app. So it's been a journey. I've learned a lot, about technology and how that whole, thing works. But that's how.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Now, you were in an accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that experience.
Todd, do you have like a bio or something? Where are you getting this information from? Oh, okay, yeah.
I went deep. I said Tiffany is on point, so I have to be on point.
You pulling out all the little tidbits. I love it. So yeah, when I first started, this is what's crazy. I had no idea how this was going to happen. Like, I applied for this accelerated program at this big entrepreneurial hub here called 1871. I know you've heard of it. But they had this program, and it was like for women founders with tech-enabled companies. Now, keep in mind, I didn't have a real company. I just had an idea. So then it was like, how can I market this idea in a way that they would be impressed by it to let me in this program? And then, I got in, and for 3 months, really just kind of, was on the grind, learning everything I could and soaking it all in, because it's not, being a tech founder is never I had no idea I was going to do that. But then even when I didn't know what I didn't know yet. So I was just like, sponge. Let me just soak up everything I can learn. And so, I did that program. It was super helpful. And, it created a foundation, I think. And being in the space with other tech founders at 1871 was super helpful too.
Do you think, I think being undereducated in some things can really be helpful. Do you agree? Absolutely.
Let me tell you something. So people ask all the time, like, but I don't know how to do that. Like, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do that. Or like, how do you even know, like, how to take the first step, right? And my thing is always like, the first step is deciding that you are going to do it by any means necessary, right? So I didn't know how to code. I couldn't even afford to pay. People were quoting me anywhere from like $60,000 to $120,000 for an MVP. So MVP is like the most viable product, like the bare minimum. Like, does it work? No fancy, whatever, right? So I'm like, well, I don't have $60,000 for it. For an MVP that we haven't even proven concept yet, but that's how much tech costs, right? So, but I didn't know that. So I'm going around asking and finding out what I can find out. And it really made me, because I did not know, it made me find creative ways to get done what I wanted to get done. I learned so much about like automation and all these like, software programs people were using to do different things that I had no idea before. I YouTube stuff I didn't know, and Googled, and, stayed up late, like digging deep into stuff I didn't know so I could learn. But it also made me be like, I don't know. So I'm not shy about asking.
Right.
So it's kind of like, if I need to have a conversation, I need to reach out to somebody, I'm just going to do it because I don't think it's inappropriate because I don't know any better, So a lot of it was that. You learn and you find your way. I think about the lady who created Spanx, she tells a story about how she like just walked into Nordstrom and she didn't know. She didn't know that was not appropriate, but it worked.
Exactly.
And had she known, she never would have gone that route, you know?
Right.
She would have like tried to do what everybody else was doing. You know, and then she would have gotten lost in that. So it really was the same way for me. Like, I didn't know that I probably shouldn't have been in the program, but I, you know, anyway, see what they say. All they can say is no. So.
Right. Exactly. Makes a lot of sense. Now, being a woman and being a minority, how was your experience, or how has your experience been in the tech world and the nonprofit world? Just you know, it can be a lot of challenges, but I'm pretty sure it's some advantages to it as well.
So this is a whole nother episode of HBCU Grad. So it's, you know, it's tough, and I'm gonna say, and like everybody knows it's tough, so I'm, you know, but I'm gonna say this: it is tough because I think that people have an inclination to take you less seriously. When you're a woman, especially when you're a Black woman, right? And I think that people have an inclination to like not, like even when you like hire people for stuff, you know, they feel like they can be late with you. They feel like they can like not write you back in a timely manner, you know, like, and it's just kind of like, are you being unprofessional, or would you also be doing this if I was a big brand?
Exactly.
No, that's not the case. Like they would, you know. So I think that's part of the really tough part. And you have to really kind of have something deep down that like allows you to experience that type of stuff and not get like paralyzed by it. I think that I know what's in me. I know I have put a stake in the ground about the success of this company, and of both of them really. I named my first company after my mom and my grandmother, the two of the strongest women I know. And so I'm like very clear on what I can do and what can happen. I'm also going to say this. If you, like you say, like it can be the burden, right? It can also be an advantage, right? Because if you walk into a room and you have already like gotten clear on who you are and what you can do and what you can bring to the table, you also can stand out from the rest of the pack, right? So I say come in there knowing your stuff, having done your research, being able to be clear on your goals. And that, you know, it's unfortunate because it's kind of like we have to do that. We have to jump higher. We have to be more prepared. But I also say this about being a Black woman. When I think about the Black women who have come before me and who have persevered through incredible, insurmountable odds, right? Who have generation after generation after generation been able to withstand even more ridiculous and harsh situations than I have. I think to myself, who am I to say I give up? You know, like who am I to say this is too tough for me? Because I know the blood that pumps through my veins. And when I go somewhere, I feel like I got the whole army of ancestors with me, you know, like I'm taking everybody who couldn't, you know, who paved the way with me. One of my previous clients was the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture in DC. And I would go in there and I was like, you know, doing this, you know, designing this campaign for them. And I would like pull up from my desk and go down into the galleries and look at those pictures and read those letters and listen to those stories. And it would just be a motivating factor for me, you know? So that's the fuel.
Right. Makes sense. Tiffany, you're extremely impressive.
Thank you, Todd.
Seriously, you know, it's amazing that we have been this close and, you know, don't know each other. You know, we're both, you know, kind of forging, you know, a path to kind of break some barriers. And, you know, you're doing a lot. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Is there anything that you wish I would have asked that I didn't?
I don't think so. I see Ghibli app is on the screen, so that's that's how you can find out more about the Ghibli app.
Okay.
How
can people find you on social?
At Ghibli app on our channels, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, at Ghibli app.
Okay. Yeah. Now, did you do a lot of research beforehand and say, as far as making sure that you could get all of those Ghibli app everywhere?
Yeah, I think that was the first thing I did, was like make sure I could have the handles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
You find one, exactly. You find one in one place, and then it's not available over here. You know, I wanted to just have Ghibli.
Yeah.
Like Ghibli. But there's some musician in some other part of the world who has all the Ghiblis. So I couldn't get to the Ghibli. I tried.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, at Ghibli app.
Right. Sounds good. Well, hopefully we can work together in some type of way. I was just thinking about.
I'm so glad we crossed paths. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, how can we do something and, have people donate to the Ghibli app, through the Ghibli app, excuse me. So, we'll talk further, as time goes on. And then once I get to a position where we can afford you, we're going to help us raise some money, because we're not good at raising money.
Well, anytime you have a question, we can, schedule some time to talk it out. Pro bono. We'll schedule some time pro bono. Now, once you start getting up, I'm going to have to start charging you now. So.
Right. Sounds good. Thank you, Tiffany. We really appreciate it. And if there's anything that we can have to do for you, please reach out, and we will
just respond positively to my DM next year.
It sounds good. Thank you, Tiffany. Have a good night. Good rest of your week.
Okay. You too. Bye.